When I first started hybrid training, there were a few things that I wish I would have known going into it. And looking back now, I think that there's some people who are really getting into this space that would really benefit from some of those things that I wish I knew. So in this video, I'm going to break down 4 lessons that I want you to learn before you get into hybrid training. I'm just going to give a 30,000 foot view about how to really break down what it looks like to do hybrid training, and also just what to expect and how to better plan so that you don't burn out, hurt yourself, and that you can make it as fun and repeatable as possible. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
Don't play with it, don't be dishonest.
Well, let's talk about a common misconception, and it's a really good start with lesson 1, is that volume does not equal faster progression. And when I say that, I mean you can't expect to jump into 2-a-days right away or log more miles like right from the get-go and expect to like instantly become a better endurance athlete or even just become stronger. In that case, you're more often than not going to hurt yourself and even burn out a lot faster because you didn't give yourself adequate time to really build a good base. And the reality is that more is not better. Better is better. So when I say that, I mean the intent behind doing everything is just as important as the amount of work. So if you're just saying, oh, I'm gonna go run, I don't know, I'm gonna go run 5 miles just see how it goes. It's probably gonna be crappy. You're not gonna get much out of it, and you might end up disliking it more than you actually would. And that's because you don't have intent behind it. It should be, hey, this is a tempo run, 5 miles today. It's a 1 mile warm up at a 10-minute per mile pace. Miles 2 and 3 are 9-minute per mile pace. 3 and 4 is an 8:30 per mile pace. Mile 5 is a cool down, 10 or slower. You've got to have intent behind the actual work. What I'm trying to say is that progressive overload is the route to go. Start with a baseline. Identify max lifts, and that can be anything from 1 rep to 1 to 3 reps to a 5 rep. Understand what your 5K time is. Get on the machines and see what your 2K for time or 5K for time on certain machines are, and establish a baseline and start training from there. Work backwards from there. You want to get to a certain threshold, you got to build a program that supports that from the start. Smart programming, progressive overload, and respecting deload weeks when they come around. Now, if you're somebody who's just going to the gym 3 or 4 days a week and for a half hour to 45 minutes, you don't really ever need a deload week. It's for people who really have higher volume. They start building it over time, and you need those deload weeks to really reset and recalibrate. Essentially, the point that I'm trying to make is that train smarter, not harder. There is a time and place to push it and a time and place for you to do the 2-a-days, for you to log the miles, but it takes progressive overload, having a training plan, and starting at the end and working backwards. You got a race in 16 weeks, work from there. Set benchmarks, do baseline testing. It's super easy. Because if you ignore these things, all you're gonna do is open yourself up to nagging injuries and susceptibility of actually getting yourself hurt and overall not enjoying the sport that you want to be doing. So that's lesson number 1. That brings me to lesson number 2, is that fueling is probably either half the battle or a little over half the battle. And what I mean by that is there is so many different methods or sayings, or you got to eat this, you got to eat that, track this, track that. People get a little sometimes overwhelmed by it, but
Oops. But honestly, the easiest way that I can simplify it is don't be afraid of food. And I know that's easier said than done, but what I mean by that is you got to have a plan for your food. Plan it around workouts. You know, if you're gonna have a cheat meal, you know when you're having that cheat meal. Don't just do it on a whim, that sort of thing. And the key is that what I was saying earlier about certain foods being like, oh, people are like, oh, I can't eat carbs, things like that. Yes, you can, but you have to earn those carbs. And what I mean by that is you gotta, plan using the carbs around like long runs or intense workouts or even just workouts in general. Don't just eat carbs in the middle of the day when you know you're gonna be sitting at your desk or not doing much for a while. Eat the carbs whenever you're about to run in the afternoon or in the mornings, things like that. I have learned a lot about carb usage, especially around runs or intense workouts, and it's definitely very, very helpful whenever you have a plan of action for those carbs. Another macronutrient is protein. Protein is really helpful for repair, for muscle synthesis, and overall just building muscle, but it's also really good for maintaining lean muscle tissue. A lot of people hurt themselves whenever they don't adequately strength train or eat enough protein. They don't have any muscle supporting their joints consistently, pounding the pavement or doing things that are difficult, just kind of wear on your body over time. Think of carbs as, like I said, fueling for performance, and then think of fats as a balancing act. So it kind of can go both ways, but helps keep you in check whenever you are training for certain things.
Lesson number 3, which is you have to balance strength and conditioning. Now I say that with a caveat. If you're a really good runner and you're not very strong and you not really in the weight room a ton, then maybe you don't have to balance them as much. Maybe you do need to favor strength over running, or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you're really strong in the weight room but you're not a good runner. You need to maybe favor more running as opposed to strength. But I don't mean just run to get better. I mean, maybe you just need to increase your aerobic base, get a little bit more fit, things like that. That's part of being in the hybrid so-called life. You can't outrun poor strength, and you can't outstrength poor running. So they've got to equal each other out in some capacity. And it's kind of funny because HYROX, it punishes imbalances. So if you're just favoring one over the other and you don't really give a ton of effort into one modality of HYROX, you're gonna feel it, and you're gonna notice a big gap in how you perform in the race itself. I mean, the simplest way to think about it is just think about it like a scale, right? You've got running over here, you've got strength over here. If you favor running too much, there's a couple of things that can happen. A, you could become a better runner. B, you might maybe start getting some stress fractures, or you might get shin splints or whatever, or you're lifting too much. Hey, my back's starting to hurt because I didn't lift correctly, I didn't brace correctly, and now I can't run. So it's tipsy-turvy. You have to learn how to balance it, and without going super in-depth on that entire process, let me just give you a 30,000-foot view. There are progressions. There are specific blocks you dedicate to improving a certain modality in training. It might be strength. You might be prioritizing strength 4 days a week with 30 to 45 to 60 minutes of aerobic work 4 to 5 days per week. And then as you shift, you go to 3 days of strength training per week, and you up the aerobic work, or you keep it the same and you start getting a little bit more anaerobic, which means you're in zone 4. I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff out there, but what I'm trying to say is it's not as simple as saying, oh, I think I'll do this today. You've got to be able to come with that plan. So lesson number 3 is balance strength with running. And not just running, but aerobic work, building a good aerobic base and balancing that with different progressions throughout different times, so that when you do get closer to a race, you are peaking, you are anaerobically fit, and essentially what that means is you can feel good in a zone, not only even mean good, but you can feel a little bit more comfortable in zone 4 for an extended period of time. So balancing those two going into a HYROX race is super, super important.
Now, the real game changer, and this is lesson number 4, is that recovery is the biggest lever that you need to be able to pull whenever you're training for HYROX or any race in general. The common misconception is that that recovery is optional, but it's really not. It's just as important, or if not the most important thing you can do whenever you're training for a HYROX. Because the truth is, recovery is training. Now, there is a couple of ways that you can look at that stuff. So, objectively speaking, you can look at things like HRV, resting heart rate. Those are the two biggest things that I look at on a daily basis. Essentially, all that is HRV is looking at like how flexible or inflexible your body is adapting to the stresses that you're giving it, sleep and things like that. While resting heart rate more looks at it from the lens of like a cardiovascular standpoint. So think like, am I getting sick? My resting heart rate might be a little higher than normal. Am I drinking enough water? If I'm not, resting heart rate might be a little bit higher than normal. I've always found that resting heart rate definitely comes into play whenever I'm like not prioritizing sleep very well, or I'm not sleeping well, or I'm doing something too close to bedtime that like excites me, like I don't know, like watching like a good movie or one of your favorite TV shows. But I found that my resting heart rate does a lot better whenever, traditionally whenever like I'm doing a stretching routine before bed or intentionally breathing, slowing down my nervous system so that I can get so I can get parasympathetic and not be so sympathetic, things like that. And I hear all the time that people are like, I don't have time to go to the sauna. I don't have time to go do all these things that that are required to recover. Recovery is as simple as, yes, is the sauna very, very helpful? It's so helpful. I recommend it to everybody. But you don't need to go to the sauna to be able to reap the rewards and the benefits of what recovery is trying to do. It could be as simple as going for a WALK. She's over there and I don't want to get her excited because she's not going right now. It could be as simple as going for a WALK in the evening, after dinner, before bed. It could be stretching. It could be meditating. It could be prayer. It could be journaling. Anything that just brings you a level of like ease. It's also things like sleep, hydration. The things that are the most boring are going to reap the biggest return on investment. So be okay with doing the boring things, because when you do the boring things, like anything else in life, when you prioritize doing the boring things consistently, you'll reap big rewards in the future. And I found that to be very, very true. Just a quick recap on lesson number 4. Recovery is one of the single most important things that you can do in training. It is a part of training. It really, really is. You need to look at 2 objective measures consistently if you can, either through like a wearable, like a Garmin, or a Whoop, an Oura Ring, or you have something like I have as well, which is an 8 sleep mattress, which tracks that stuff as well. But keep track of your HRV and your resting heart rate. All of this to say, you just need to prioritize recovery. Make it a part of your routine. That's going to do it for this week's video. I hope you got some really good information on how to better understand getting into HYROX, or even just any sort of sport or race in general that maybe is around endurance. Like I said in the beginning, this is not a super in-depth analysis on what you should do, but no more of just like an overarching thing to take into account whenever you do get into it. That way you kind of have a framework to go off of and then deep dive from there. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time. Have a great day.